Buenos dias. ¿Cómo está usted? This is Kaipacha with the weekly Pele Report for November 2nd, 2022, here in Tepoztlan, where it is the Week of the Dead. Yes, there's the Day of the Dead, but it goes on and on and on, particularly with two eclipses as the sun moves through Scorpio, the sign of death, endings, and transformation. Today we have the moon in Aquarius, and she's moving into a trine with Mars down there in Gemini. And then we'll trine the Sun, Venus, and Mercury all traveling together through Scorpio. And then she'll sextile Uranus. Before then, she moves into Pisces later on today. And then, of course, on Friday, she'll go into Aries. And then on Sunday, she'll go into Taurus. Getting closer and closer. Waxing, getting fuller and fuller. And as she moves through Taurus, she will conjoin with Uranus. And we'll have the north node of the moon herself, conjunct Uranus in a full opposition to the entire family of Sun, conjunct Mercury, conjunct Venus, conjunct the south node of the moon, to make a total lunar eclipse. And that eclipse is happening next Tuesday. So you'll feel the energy building between now and then. And it's not, this is such a huge event because it involves so many planets. I'm also have to bring in that Venus squares Saturn exactly on Sunday and Monday. And so this whole full moon total lunar eclipse is in square to Saturn. The sun will square Saturn, Mercury squares Saturn, moon squares Saturn, Venus squares Saturn. The moon's nodes square Saturn. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. You can look at that chart at the beginning and get a good idea of what this energy is all about. Hola from Tepoztlan, Mexico. Welcome to the day, Dia de Muerto, Semana de Muerto, Mesa, a month. The sun is traveling through Scorpio. For a year and a half, the south node of the moon is moving through Scorpio. The sign of death, endings, loss, betrayal, abandonment, transformation, leading to resurrection, transpersonal consciousness, deeper, wider, greater awareness of all that is. This is what this eclipse season is all about. And you may have felt, and I talked about setting an intention with the solar eclipse. At the new moon was the time when the solar energy of this is what I want to let go of. I am the snake shedding my skin. I am the butterfly emerging from the cocoon. And it's necessary for me to let go and release everything that I once was. That identity built up in Leo dies in Scorpio. I've just been here on this retreat, a Tantra retreat with Harish, and I've gotten a full dose. We have been exploring the mysteries of death for days, doing Tantra practices, hundreds, couple thousand years old, these practices. And one of the main things was that we are all terminated. We will all be meeting our death. It will come at any time, at a moment just like this. You could be watching the Pele Report. It could be tomorrow, it could be in your sleep, it could be any time. And so the teachers and the spiritual masters of Tantra die before they die. Die now. And what do they mean by that? They mean to shed the separateness, the mind, the ego, the identity that I've made for myself, that I have built up from parents and teachers and preachers and religions and governments and schools and bosses and in jobs and spouses and children, and we carry so much. I loved one of the famous one-liners that I remember is, "Don't should on yourself." Don't should on yourself. We've gotten a lot of shoulds since we were born, and they've contributed to creating this separate self that needs to be something. And the process of awakening, this process of awakening is shedding, releasing, letting go of all the shoulds, of all the good and the bad. And this is where it's interesting, because this is like a step up from even the evolutionary astrology. This is stepping outside of polarity. Those of you that have been following me for a while and studying evolutionary astrology, we evolve through the Pluto polarity point, and we try to balance out the Scorpio-Taurus axis, okay? But this teaching wants to take us beyond polarity, that each and every one of us is perfect, that every moment is perfect, that we are each a unique expression of oneness, and there is nothing wrong. That creation wants to experience itself through the lens of each one of us and experience the full spectrum, the whole range of variety, of differentness, of good and bad, and right and wrong, and light and dark, and victim perpetrator. And we create these stories with our mind. And the problem comes when we believe the story, and we believe our thoughts are real, and we take our mind candy and turn it into a reality. So this lunar eclipse is such a very powerful time. It's such a powerful period, because now the moon, which is our habits, our childhood, our mother, our past, our inner child, our need for security, our neurosis, okay? This subconscious inner child that wants to be held and safe and secure and can be afraid of loss is opposite to the sun, Venus, Mercury, all together in Scorpio, that says, let go. So this is a time period coming into this November 8th, next Tuesday. This lunar eclipse is all going to bring up the resistance, the insecurities, the fears, the want to go back, the want to, I want to give me that snake skin back. I want to go back into that cocoon. I want to shrink down into the old identity that I was. But we're being afforded an opportunity. But that opportunity is just like sailing out to sea, and this is where the mantra comes in today a little bit. Yes? And today's the song for this week. Yes? Ride, Captain, ride. It is as if we are all a drop of water from the ocean of oneness. And we can return to that ocean of oneness. But we can be afraid of the emptiness, of the void, of the expanse, of the cosmic sea. And we can want to stay in separation rather than dissolve that old identity into the one unity. So this is our challenge. This is our call this week through this intensity. We can fear the emptiness. We can fear the sea. We can fear returning to oneness because there's nothing to hold on to. There is no I. There is no past. There is no future. We simply come into the now. And in the now there is a void. And we can fear the void. And there's many writings and teachings about the void and the sense of emptiness, longing, loneliness, isolation. We step out of the amusement park and we are alienated and we are alone. But the teachings I got this week was really, it's kind of maybe a secret. Don't tell anyone. But the void is not void. The void is void of everything that we know, of every form of materialism, of all emotion, of all thought, of all sensation, of all pleasure, but it is love. It is love, pure essence of being, the fullness of the totality of infinity. It is beyond knowing. It is beyond the paradox. It is the paradox of the paradox, or the paradox that there is no paradox. It is beyond the mental constructs of our mind that I talked about in last week's mantra. If you remember last week's mantra, outside the mind, outside of time. My naked true self I will surely find. So, I want to read to you the Sabian symbol for this degree of this lunar eclipse. It is the 17th degree of Taurus, and it has very much to do with exactly this tantra, this moving beyond polarity into the ocean of unity, outside of judgment, outside of separation. Check it out. It is a symbolical battle between swords and torches. The keynote is refusing to depend upon the past. The seeker turns warrior, fighting anew the eternal great war. Now, you would think this has to do with polarity, fighting and opposite sides. I know, a battle, right? But listen to what the battle is. When Gautama, having sought in vain for the answers to his questions among the teachers of tradition, sat under the Bodhi tree, he had to fight his own battle in his own way, even though it is an eternal fight. The spiritual light within the greater soul must struggle against the ego will that only knows how to use the powers of this material and intellectual world. There is no possibility of escape. It is the energy that arises out of the present moment, the inescapable now, that the daring individual has to use in the struggle. Feel into the void. Let go of all thought, craving, desire. Center yourself in that heart space. Did you know that the exact bottom of your heart is exactly midway between the top of your crown and the absolute perineum, the bottom of the Sushumna, centered in the heart? There is a portal. And it's interesting, and what I want to really bring forward here with this, also, I was even thinking of another song for this week. It could be talking about a revolution. Terry Chapman, another good song for this week. Because this moon is conjunct Uranus, the planet of revolution, the planet, the archetype of liberation, of Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods and brought enlightenment, the light. And we learned this week from Harish, there is one thing you can give away but never run out of, and that is love. Give it, give it, give it, give it. You will not run out. You may even have more to give. So this enlightenment is not about knowledge and knowing and seeing, but it is about moving, liberating ourselves even beyond that. And it is a revolution, and then the revolution comes in where I want to talk about that this is square to Saturn in Aquarius. So we have this total lunar eclipse with Uranus, right? You know, it's almost like the sun, Mercury, and Venus, you know, in this full moon, right? Relative to Uranus. I mean, the Earth is right in between, directly in between. It's blocking out the light of the sun from hitting the full moon. That's what an eclipse is. Talk about a lineup. This is a direct alignment between the moon and Uranus and the Earth, us, Gaia, the mother, in between these two powerful forces. And we can just feel this polarization. But what is there? Saturn, the Lord of Karma, form, structure, time, Chronos. And it is in a 270-degree square to Uranus. And that 270-degree square has to do with liberating and breaking out and breaking free from societal expectation. So not only are we breaking and liberating ourselves from ourselves and our identities and our past, but on a global scale and on a personal scale, we are also breaking out of old structures, old forms, old careers, old jobs, old positions that we used to hold. Even with our friends, groups, organizations, corporations, the whole political realm. This is time of revolution. This is time of thinking new thoughts, seeing a new way, moving in a new way, dancing, being moved by the energy rather than mindfully moving the energy. We're talking about a step beyond mindfulness. This is mind emptiness. This is death, leading to the resurrection. Let me read to you the degree of the sun for this total lunar eclipse. 17th degree of Scorpio. A woman fecundated by her own spirit is great with child. A total reliance upon the dictates of the source within. Here we see the result of a deep and complete concentration, reaching to the innermost center of the personality, where the living spirit acts as an impregnating power. This reveals the potency of the inward way, the surrender of the ego to a transcendent force which can create through the person vivid manifestations of the will of the goddess. Let's feel into that goddess earth energy at the time of the lunar goddess in all of her fullness, with the shadow of Gaia blocking her out totally. It'll just be for an hour or so. It won't be for that long. But you know, the solar eclipse is, you can only see a solar eclipse across a little strip of planet Earth. But the whole, the whole dark side of the Earth will be able to see. Yeah, this lunar eclipse. And I can even give you the time if you want to, if you want to go out, if it's nighttime where you are. The challenge is here that the lunar eclipse happens exactly at 3:02 in the morning Pacific time, which equals 6:02 a.m. on the East Coast, New York time in the United States. Yeah. And of course, South America, Central America, you will be able to see this. Other than that, Hawaii definitely will be able to see it. But yeah, that's the half of the Earth globe that will be covered with this. So, what I want to encourage you to do is to set sail, to return to the ocean of oneness. Yeah? Like a ship setting sail into the unknown. I gather up all I need. Then say farewell, shove off, and turn my face to the wide open sea. And in this case, I encourage you, all that you need is nothing. Let go. Your consciousness is the ship, and all that you need is your consciousness to set sail. One more time, yeah. Like a ship setting sail into the unknown, I gather all that I need. Then say farewell, shove off, and turn my gaze to the wide open sea. May you turn your gaze to the wide open sea, the void within the self, that emptiness that is filled with nothing but everything. Love. Namaste. Aloha. So much love.